All right, hello and welcome to episode 7 of Diggs Sideline Podcast. We are your hosts, Sam.
And as always, my name is Pat.
And Pat, we are in week 4 of the NFL. Vikings, Bears this week.
Vikings, Bears. We're heading to Soldier Field.
Soldier Field.
And just like Aaron Rodgers makes me lose sleep, I think we both lose sleep over that Chicago defense.
Oh.
And more specifically, Khalil Mack.
Absolutely. I lose more sleep. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a threat to us in terms of losing football games, but the Bears defense is honestly a bigger threat in terms of inflicting physical damage on our team and maybe even creating an injury. Not even because they play dirty, that they don't, but just because they're so freaking strong.
Right. And I do remember last year when news broke that Chicago had traded for him. And I think all of our hearts sank.
All of our hearts sank. My hair was starting to fall. And we weren't the only ones surprised by that. Mitch Trubisky was also surprised by that. He was, I don't know why, but he was in his mom's house. Maybe he was still living there or something. And he was like in his basement bedroom or whatever. And he was sleeping in. It was like noon or whatever. And she had to come downstairs and wake him up and let him know that the Bears had traded for Khalil Mack. And he was really excited. But I just pictured in that moment just like Mitchell Trubisky in his high school bed with his REO Speedwagon poster on the wall and cereal bowls out from like 3 days ago.
Right. Bug-eyed as all hell.
Exactly. I feel like this podcast has like, we've had 7 episodes and in about 4 of them we've just trashed Mitchell Trubisky.
No, and rightfully so.
But in all seriousness, the Bears can play some football. Did you see what they did to the Redskins the other day?
Yeah, I feel like we've got a lot to talk about in that game.
Absolutely.
And it didn't help that Washington's offensive line is pretty piss poor.
Yeah.
So poor Case Keenum. I'm not even going to sit here and trash the guy. He was just put up. It's basically like running into a wall.
It was essentially one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL against the best defensive front 7 in the NFL.
Exactly. Yeah. And, when you don't get help from your surrounding team, what are you going to do?
Exactly. And not only that, so not only do they have a pretty poor offensive line, their starting left tackle is holding out right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure why. Booger McFarland seems to think it's just a trust issue with the medical staff.
Boogie is a joke.
He's the worst. But yeah, so he's holding out. It's probably for money reasons, and you know what? This is just more leverage for him. So good for him. He's proving his worth by not being there.
Sure. But I say we just dive right into it. Chicago's
Absolutely.
D did not waste any time,
No.
And they started that game off with a pick 6.
Was that first drive of the game?
I believe so. Yeah,
man.
First drive of the game, 6 up on the board immediately.
That's a hot start. And honestly, if you're the Redskins, you're at home, you're coming out with a bunch of momentum and steam, and you go out there first drive of the game, boom, pick 6. Your momentum has just gone to nothing.
Right, and I think that's why Mitchell Trubisky and the Bears had so much success last year. I felt like they really rode that Bears defense, and their turnovers that they had last year, which have kind of settled down a little bit into this year, minus the Washington game. They had like 5 or 6 turnovers. But so I think just the key, we'll get into it, but a key point to stopping Trubisky is to make him throw.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of the Bears D, I wanted to talk about, speaking of turnovers due to the Bears defense, I want to talk about the Bears defense, specifically their turnovers, because they put up a stat on Monday Night Football that I thought was just incredible.
Hit me.
They have more turnovers and takeaways from the offense than passing touchdowns allowed from the beginning of last season up until right now. I think they have like 31 takeaways, and they've allowed 27 or 29 or something like that passing touchdowns.
And Coach Matt Nagy must be just sleeping just fine knowing he's got a good defense like that. That's insane.
Absolutely. I don't think they skipped a beat. Last year they had, Vic Fangio, and he took the job over in Denver, and they have Chuck Pagano now, and they haven't skipped a beat.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so they started with a pick 6. HaHa Clinton ended up having 2 for the game, and Kyle Fuller had 1 too.
Yep.
And let's just talk about Mitch too. Another poor decision in the red zone. He severely underthrew the ball to, I think it was to Allen Robinson, and it was intercepted, and that kind of got Washington back in the game.
Right, that was a takeover that Washington had.
Right, exactly, yeah. But I'm just saying, Mitch, and he did it against the Packers too, with 2 minutes left in the game against the Packers, in the left side of the end zone there, he threw another pick that could have won the game.
Yeah.
And so what I'm getting at is if you can make Mitch throw the ball, I think you've got a good chance to win this game.
I think so too. Mitch last year was his first full year starting, correct? Or had he started 2 years ago? I can't remember.
Either.
We'll have to look that up. But
yeah.
You have your sophomore slump, or what is it? This is his junior year slump now.
Right.
And I think he does have some qualities. He does have some raw talent and ability, but I just don't think that he's
right. What I will give Mitch credit is his ability to get out of the pocket.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't see Kirk do enough of. And I think anytime a quarterback can get out of the pocket, you extend the play, players get open, coverage gets broken, and something happens. Rodgers does it all the time.
Absolutely.
That's Rodgers. But yeah, so I will give credit for Mitch for getting out of the pocket.
Well, and getting into the Bears offense a little bit, the secondary, or not the secondary, but their pass catchers that they have when a play breaks, they're all really speedy. You have Allen Robinson, you have Tariq Cohen, you have Taylor Gabriel.
He had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, Taylor Gabriel had 3 touchdowns. That's phenomenal. But they're all very speedy guys. So on a broken play, they can escape their coverage and just get to where Mitch needs to throw the ball. And if those defenders are really just focused on their man and they're not looking at what direction Trubisky's escaping, that could be dangerous.
Right. And what's interesting, you mentioned Tariq Cohen.
Yeah.
I feel like they haven't been using him much as much as last year. This year, and I think I've got the stat here, but Montgomery led the team with rushes, but I think Cohen only had 2 carries and maybe 2 catches.
No. So Tariq Cohen during the Washington game, he had 4 carries, which was 3rd on the team. David Montgomery had 13. Cordero Patterson had 4. Tariq Cohen also had 4, but his 4 rushes netted -2 yards.
Yeah, so I'm really interested to see if teams are figuring him out a little bit and kind of Matt Nagy's, shifting around and how spontaneous he is.
Tariq Cohen was a feature of their offense last year.
Right, exactly.
And I haven't seen him use it at all. And so in the receiving game, he only had 2 receptions for 26 yards. He did have 4 targets. I'm not sure if those were dropped or
here's kind of an interesting take. So, before, I believe they signed Cordell Patterson this offseason. So I think sometimes when you introduce, like another weapon, I'd consider him a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then it's kind of more difficult to kind of get everyone as involved, and especially Cohen. But, so I'm just saying I think there's more mouths to feed in a sense.
Yeah, I agree. And it's another tool in Nagy's offense. And it's interesting that his featured piece from last year has almost been a non-factor this year.
Exactly.
Now Tariq Cohen is extremely versatile. I think they said the other night that he is lined up at the tailback position throughout his tenure with the Bears. He's lined up at the tailback position about 500 times. He's lined up in the slot about 150 and wide out about 150 times. So he is versatile. They can use him in a lot of different places. But it's just weird. His production this whole year has been down.
And what'll be interesting, if the Bears kind of sit at that mediocre level, 500 level as the season goes on, I'm interested to see if Cohen gets more involved.
Yeah, that is. And if they revert kind of to last year's game plan.
Exactly. And I'm not saying Patterson isn't a good fit, but maybe if it's not working, you got to change it up.
Exactly. And I think Patterson. I think the other teams that Patterson has been on went to the Oakland Raiders, he went to the Patriots, and now he's on the Bears. They're using him in a way that the Vikings never really did. The Vikings really tried to force that square peg into the round hole of saying, hey, you are a wide receiver, but he just couldn't run a route for the life of him. He couldn't put a move on anybody, and that was just, once he gets the ball in his hands, he's electric. You watch him on special teams, but I think these other teams are figuring that out. They line up with him, as, they'll put him at running back. Sometimes they'll line up with him in the Wildcat, and he'll just get a direct snap. A lot of times they use him on the jet sweep, in which we did use a few times with him on the jet sweep. But, they're just trying to get the ball in his hands as fast as possible, and he's a big guy. He can bruise on his way down the field.
Yeah, he is a big guy. And I think you kind of said it there. The Vikings aren't a team to kind of do much of this wildcat, jet sweeps. So he kind of just didn't fit the mold. He was phenomenal as a kick returner.
Absolutely.
I mean, every time the guy had the ball, you were expecting at least a 20, 30, 40-yard return. And when you can set up your team like that, it's only positives.
That's phenomenal, yeah. So I just want to touch on one other thing on the Bears defense that we talked a lot about their secondary and the balls getting taken away, which I think they're the unsung heroes of their defense, even though they're phenomenal. But the real threat that we are going to have to focus on is their front seven. Man, can they destroy a unit? You have Khalil Mack, Roquan Smith, Akeem Hicks. This is a big bruising front seven, and our offensive line, I hope they're up to the task.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. They're very stacked, and I'm a big fan of Akeem Hicks. I love big line. I love Linval Joseph. I love who's the guy who from the Packers? He's with the Lions now up front. I always do this. I can't think on the dime like that. I can't think of his name, but he's a big fella. He's always on the NFL Top 100 on the videos.
Yeah.
Like you think he's got a job there.
Exactly.
But I'd like to make a point though that there's hope for the Vikings, and the Redskins, the Bears got 21 points off of all of their out of the 31 points off turnovers. 21 off of the 31. Yep. But what I'm getting at is that the Redskins near the end there, they were still always in the game. And aside from the fact that all their penalties, they had a missed field goal.
Yeah.
They went for 2, and then the turnovers, they were still within grasp.
And I do remember there was an instance, I think it was right before the half, they were knocking on the door, but time was just running out, and they decided to kick a field goal instead of going for a touchdown. And they were right there, and they had momentum, and I think they should have gone for a touchdown because I think they were on like the 10-yard line or something like that.
No, I'm sorry. I hate to...
No, go ahead. I'm trying to remember the game.
I think it was on like the 20. I think it was on the 20 or 25.
Sure.
No, it was.
Yeah. But still, when against a defense like the Chicago Bears,
exactly,
where chances like that are slim, and you're down by that much. And I don't care if it's about to be halftime. You got to go for the touchdown.
Exactly. And
but to your point, they were in the game, and they just they made mistakes. They made, in my mind, some coaching mistakes, which Jake Gruden.
He's got to go.
He's got to go.
He's got to go.
The Redskins have been 8-8 for how many years?
Yeah, exactly.
Mediocre team, missing the playoffs.
Yep.
Oh man, I can't believe he still has a job.
And it's unfortunate for Keenum because aside from being with us, I feel like he's just kind of bounced around from very mediocre to mediocre.
He's had 4 teams in 4 years?
Yeah. So his best year was when he came off the bench for us, and we know how that ended. But yeah. So I mean, is there anything else you want to talk about regarding the Bears-Redskins game?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. The Bears were pretty dominant, and it's going to be really hard to take some nuggets away just because the Bears were so dominant over the Redskins that it's hard.
Right.
It's hard to say this is what the Redskins did well, and let's exploit that because the Bears were so dominant.
Yeah. So let's get into the Vikings-Chicago game at 3 p.m.
Let's do it.
So I just want to talk about what I think needs to happen. And I think you're going to agree with me. I think all of Minnesota's going to agree with me. They're going to turn off this podcast because of how obvious this is. But we got to run the ball.
Yeah.
We got to run the ball. And this is going to be a game where it's going to be, I think you might see more 2-3 yard carries, and it's just going to be, this hard running, and we can't abandon it.
Exactly.
We can't abandon it.
And it's going to be extremely difficult, and it's to keep running the ball because their front seven is so good.
Exactly.
You can try to run outside, you can try to run inside. They're going to run a stunt, and they're going to stop the run. And it's going to be difficult, but you're right. We can't abandon it because running the ball tires that front seven out. And if we can do that, then maybe that opens up a couple things for us.
Right. And I'm going to mention, I think you're going to notice a lot more running to the opposite side of Mack. Probably most of the game.
Yeah.
And in my opinion. And then, sprinkle in some counters when they're more heavily stacked on the one side.
Sure.
And then give Cook the ball,
Absolutely.
and let the guy run with it. And give him a pitch and let him run with it.
So to that point, the running game is going to really wear down their front seven. We're going to have to come up with a really good rotation on Cook, Madison, and even get Boone in the mix because we need to keep pounding the rock.
Right.
If our game plan is going to be successciable.
And speaking of our offensive line, I just want to say some stats heading into this week because it's exciting. We haven't had this since AP.
Yeah, we haven't had a good
since
offensive
the
line.
year that he ran for 2,000 yards.
Absolutely.
So as of right now, the offensive line is tied for first in NFL sacks allowed at 2.
2 sacks?
2 sacks allowed.
Kirk's only been sacked twice?
Yeah, and those maybe were both against the Packers. So give the Packers credit.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're first with 7 rushing touchdowns, and then second with 581 rushing yards.
Jeez.
So yeah,
that's crazy to me. I mean, you watch the game, and I mean they've gone up against some really tough defensive lines. And it doesn't look like they're, especially when they're in pass coverage, it doesn't look like they're a top tier defensive unit. But when you look at it from behind the camera angle that gives you behind the quarterback, and you look at the holes that they're creating in the rushing game, this is a top tier rushing offensive line.
And let's put it all on Bradbury again.
Absolutely.
He stepped in, and you've noticed a dramatic difference.
And we acquired 2 other offensive linemen in the offseason. What were their names? Dixon and whoever else. But yeah, I think they've been doing a really good job too.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously we got to get the run going. And there's another fun stat. Mike Zimmer in his career with the Vikings is roughly 27 and I believe 3 when we've rushed 28 times or more in a game.
Seriously?
Yeah. So I mean, again, Mike Zimmer has been preaching running the ball. DiFilippo, we know you're listening to the Dig Sideline podcast, but
it haunts you.
And again, you didn't have an O-line last year. You didn't have a Bradbury.
Sure.
But we got to run the ball.
Absolutely, we need to run the ball. So some other items to note on the Vikings offense here is just some news that came out this week. So BB went down. What's his injury?
So I looked into it. He has some torn ligaments in his ankle.
No.
Yeah. So
how long is he out for?
I'm not sure, but they put him on the IR.
Geez.
Yeah.
So he's at least out for 8 weeks.
Exactly. And so if you brought it up, so do you want to say who we signed?
Yeah. So I think everyone that's listening to this, that's a Vikings fan, knows that we signed Laquan Treadwell back. So
I got to say something.
Go ahead.
Minnesota Viking fans, this is your one chance to buy his jersey again and not make the mistake the first time around. Get his jersey. He's a Hall of Famer.
First round draft pick. You don't see those guys on the waiver wire very often. You got to pick them up when you get the chance.
Don't make this mistake. Get his jersey this time. No.
No. So we picked Laquan Treadwell back up. A lot of guys are throwing out names like Aldrick Robinson. Why don't we pick him up? I don't know. Like, was it a cap issue?
And in the offseason,
I think Aldrick would require a vet's minimum.
Well, in the offseason, he said he wanted to come back to the Vikings. And I was frustrated that we didn't. We ended up going after Doxson, who ended up getting hurt. But I think Treadwell was the easy sign. He knows the playbook. We're heading into Chicago. It's week 4.
Yeah.
He was an easy sign. Maybe they're vetting out someone else from the time being. But
I'm just really disappointed. So BB he was a dual threat guy in the fact that he could play wide receiver and he could return balls. So he basically took up 2. He freed up a roster spot for us, which we'll get to in a second here. But when he was playing wide receiver, he could line up in the slot or he could line up wide and get Adam Thielen in the slot, and that did a lot for us. And he was a legitimate pass catching threat. Granted, his route running wasn't quite to the level of Diggs or Thielen, but he was a legitimate threat in the fact that he could catch the ball.
He was another that he could catch the ball and you give him the ball and let him do what he has to do.
Exactly.
And he's quick. He's one of those fast little white guys. And unfortunately, Treadwell, we have got problems catching the ball.
Yeah.
And he's not super quick either. He's kind of beefy, but yeah, exactly. It's a big hit. It is a big hit.
That's the biggest thing in my mind that BB has over Treadwell is that his hands are soft and he can just catch the ball.
And there's a video of him I was watching back in the offseason. Vikings puts out all those kind of videos, and there's one of him just practicing catching the balls. He's like right in front of the ball catcher or shooter or whatever, and he's just catching them like however fast they are, and he's just catching them. It's like you don't see Treadwell doing any of that.
Absolutely, his hands are rock hard. And they just bounce right off.
But you mentioned he's a dual threat, and that is one area that it's going to hurt. But who did we sign?
We got our boy back. Local man, Marcus Sherrills.
U of M. Sherrills, I think we were all a little sad when you had to leave. I don't know if we just couldn't agree on a contract or what the issue is, but you went to the Saints. Heaven forbid.
So here's the thing that I really like about us picking Treadwell back up. Here's the silver lining to the whole BB situation. Is Sherrills, yes, he's a punt return, and that's what we primarily use him for. But on his roster slot, he is a cornerback. So that brings us back to a little bit more depth. So we got Hughes back. We got Sherrills back. So hopefully we won't see any more of these practice squad guys that have to take the field.
I'd like to say 2 things. While I'm not a fan of Sherrills playing cornerback.
I'm not either.
But he is another body, to your point.
He's better than the practice squad guys.
100% right. And, something I noticed with BB, at least in 2 out of the 3 games, he dropped a punt in 2 games. Each time he dropped a punt.
That's
he
true.
muffed it. Yeah, he muffed it. And, as Viking fans, let's resort to kicking. You start to get this.
Yeah.
You kind of clench up a little bit.
Sherrills is reliable.
And, I don't think enough credit is given to punt returners because that's a difficult job.
Absolutely not. And I think Sherrills, it's either a team record or maybe an NFL record for punts returned for touchdowns. He's really good at it.
I might throw Devin Hester's name out there. We can fact check this later. Or is that just kick returns?
I think it was kick returns, but punts might be on there.
For the Vikings, for sure.
Yeah, Vikings for sure.
Vikings
for sure.
But when you've got 2, runners coming at you and you're trying to look at the ball and you're trying to focus on where you're going, I think Sherrills he just fit the bill, and we had a solid guy there.
Absolutely.
So we're happy to have him back.
Exactly. And I'm not sure how long he was available for. I'm not sure when the Saints cut him.
I didn't even know he was cut.
I didn't know he was cut either. I didn't know he was a free agent.
And I don't know if the Vikings were just too far into the start of the season, to go after him, and they just were rolling with BB. But
either way, I think you're right. I think the Treadwell Sherrills pickup is the best possible situation for BB going out, strictly because Treadwell already knows the playbook and he can get in there right away.
Right.
So let's talk about what's going to win us the game.
Yes. So I'm just going to say, I think I maybe already touched on it. We just got to get pressure on Trubisky.
Yeah, and our defense is going to be what does that.
And the defense is what's going to do it. It's going to be Hunter, Kendricks, hopefully Barr is back, and Griffin on the end. and just get to him, get in his head.
Before we get too deep into the Vikings defense, since you mentioned both Hunter and Kendricks, I do need to issue an official apology to our guest podcaster from our last episode, Alex. Alex, I am sorry. I thought I corrected you when I said it was Hunter and Griffin. You were correct. It was Danielle Hunter and Eric Kendricks who tackled Josh Jacobs, held him on the ground, and were hyping each other up. So
it's okay because I know.
Formally apologize.
Because it's okay because Stanek texted me right after the podcast and he said I never want to see that guy again. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
No, Stanek wouldn't say that.
So yeah, Vikings defense.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, we got to pressure. It sounds obvious, but that's got to be the focal point of the defense.
Absolutely.
Kind of like what we did against Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was out of sorts. He was playing with a little turd in his pants that entire game, and I want to see a Mitch Trubisky with a little turd and big buggy eyes that whole game.
I do too. So yes, getting pressure on him, but I think more importantly is containing him.
There you go.
Because when he can escape and get his speedy receivers to run off the route and just do something else, that's going to be dangerous. But if he stays in the pocket, he's going to be pressured into making a bad decision.
And I want to make a note on that. I feel like I've noticed Griffin over the years tends to let his end, he kind of loses contain. He's so driven to go for the quarterback and go right to the gut that. Right. I'm gonna predict that Trubisky does scramble out more on Griffin's side than he does on Hunter's side.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But you're 100% right. You have to contain him. Like I said earlier, he scrambles, he makes plays happen, whether he connects with the receiver or not. Probably not, but yeah, 100% got to connect.
Absolutely,
or contain.
And I think that we're gonna have to come up with some scheme, and I trust that Zimmer's doing this, but their receiving core is so fast, so quick, that we need to come up with some good, some good zone schemes, because our secondary, Trey Waynes cannot keep up with Taylor Gabriel. I hate to say it. I think Rhodes will have Allen Robinson, and I think he'll be able to take care of business there, but Taylor Gabriel's going to blow right past.
What I will give Waynes credit for, though, he is actually very quick. I'm not trying to
he's quick, but he's not necessarily responsive to the routes.
No. I'm saying that he gets beat, but one thing he does have is his ability is to catch back up. His agility
to close on the play.
But yeah, no, you're 100% right. There's probably going to be a gap, and if we're going to bank on Mitch not being able to make the throw, Waynes will be just fine. But I want to say that I will give credit for Waynes because I'm very harsh on the guy. He is quick on recovery. Yeah. So. And aside from Barr, I think our defense is relatively healthy heading into this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard anything else about anyone else.
I haven't, no.
Yeah. So
let's knock on wood and hope that nobody else gets injured between now and Sunday.
So, Sam, for the offense and Chicago's defense, what is our go-to play other than running? Do you have anything else that you want to touch on the offensive game plan?
We need to do play action away from Khalil Mack.
Everything away from Khalil Mack.
Everything away from Khalil Mack. Get Kirk Cousins rolling to the outside and get him some of those high percentage throws. This defense is for real, and we just need to be able to keep moving the sticks.
Exactly. And I think we got to get CJ Ham has to be in on every play.
Oh man,
he has to be. Do you remember that? Do you remember that play against Oakland? I think a cornerback, poor guy comes sneaking in, and Ham just leveled him. It was hilarious. I think everybody was just like, it's got to be on like a Come On Man with Randy Moss or some kind of ESPN segment. But yeah, so I think Ham has been, again, we don't talk about him enough. We talk about the offensive line, but Ham has been vital in these holes.
Absolutely. So with getting Ham in there, what type of formation do you is it an I formation? How do you see Ham being incorporated?
I think, he's mainly used in the I formation, right? Sure. You can maybe do a little deceptiveness by pitching it to Cook, and then the linebackers are assuming, hey, Ham's in, we're going right, right through that hole or that hole, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think he just needs to be in there because he's quick too. He can get up there and block that linebacker or that outside D end and just give Cook the ball. Let the guy try and make a move.
Exactly. Get Cook the ball and give him an opportunity to do something great.
Yeah. And speaking of Cook, on top of Cook, I want to talk about Madison again. Yes. Can we just talk about?
Yes. So I really do believe that Madison is going to be key to our success. In this game, because that front seven is going to inflict a lot of damage, and we need to keep our backs fresh. So it's going to be. I would not be surprised if we saw an even rotation between Dalvin and Madison.
Exactly, and we both know Madison can easily carry that load.
Absolutely,
easily carry the load.
Young guy,
and he's quick too. He's not as slippery as Cook. But yeah, I mean, both of them need to be used. And then get Mike Boone in there. You said that earlier in the podcast too. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we can keep our backs fresh and keep their front seven worn down, I think we'll be able to win the game. But I think that the key to success here, this game is going to be won and lost on the sidelines. This is going to be a battle of the minds between Zimmer and Nagy and Kubiak and Stefanski against the Bears defense. And Chuck Pagano. It's really going to be a battle of the minds and who is going to outcoach and out-scheme the other one.
Exactly. And, I just kind of got to go a little off topic here. I want to get your opinion on, or just your thoughts on, I feel like Diggs hasn't been used as much this year. Are there any thoughts? I think he's such a team player that he's not even thinking of
Absolutely.
The stats. But I'm just kind of curious.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking about that earlier today. And every time after a Vikings game, it'll be a good win or, even when we lost to the Packers, he had a touchdown, but, he wasn't being targeted a bunch. And he's always tweeting out these cryptic tweets.
Oh, has he?
Yeah. I'm not granted, that's how he uses his Twitter. Everything feels like it's a subtweet.
I'm not too much on Twitter, so is he like what do you mean? Like, are they pretty cryptic?
Know.
Like, what's
just like God's got a plan. ...
No, he says
stuff.
that all the time.
I know.
No, I follow him on Instagram. That's his motto.
I know.
But I just wanted to point out how much of a team player he really is, and he's one of those guys that. And you know what? I saw some rumor that Diggs is a little disgruntled. And it's like, give me a break. That's not true. And you know where it was? K-Fan. I think K-Fan had a little segment like a what if, and I think it was maybe trade Ramsey for Diggs, or Diggs isn't happy, and they were kind of going with it, and then now it's kind of spreading like a little wildfire. But it's not true.
I think Diggs understands that when you have somebody like Adam Thielen on the other side of the field, one of you is going to get the attention and one of you isn't. And I think Diggs has just been getting the attention, and I think that's quite honestly because he's not necessarily the more productive player on the team, but I think he's the bigger name on the team, especially with the Miracle. Heck, our podcast is called Diggs Sideline Podcast.
And I would be hurt if he left and we're stuck with this podcast.
I don't think he's not going to leave.
No, he's not leaving.
I think he understands how the game of football works. He has a contract that he's happy with, and he just wants to win.
Yeah, and I just brought it up just for the sole fact of giving him credit, because I think he's handled it well. He's not getting all the targets, and especially it's tough when, Cook is getting a majority of the carries, but as a running back team, we're running the ball a lot more relative to all of our play calls,
Right, absolutely.
So, and he's got to understand, you're up 28-0. What are you going to do, throw the ball?
Speaking of that, I just wanted to point out something that was brought up during the Vikings game on Sunday. It was that we are like second in the league for running plays called.
Yeah, exactly.
And last year we were last in the league.
Yeah, and that just shows Zimmer did what he could to seek out Kubiak, and he said, listen, you're on the team, run the ball. Here exactly. are our 20 running plays. You're going to cycle them through until Cook can't run no more, which is scary because we got to be careful with Cook's knee.
Right, exactly. All right, so I gave my key to success in this game and it being won on the sidelines of the Battle of Minds. Pat, what do you think is going to win us this game?
I think what's going to win us is pressuring Trubisky. I think it needs to be a relentless assault on Trubisky. It's got to be just consistent blitzing. I want him as uncomfortable as possible.
I don't think there's any reason why we can't send at least 5 on every play.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly. I have enough faith in our cornerbacks and Trubisky's lack of accuracy and playmaking ability with pressure to be able to continuously just bombard the guy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that for me, that's going to be my key to success. Yeah, should we dive into score predictions?
Absolutely. All right, so I kind of want to talk about what the world thinks about score predictions before we get there. So this is going to be the first time we've talked about betting. We're not advocating for gambling or anything, but it's just a benchmark for what Vegas and the odds makers think how the game is going to go. So after the Monday night game, lines opened up for Chicago to win by an advantage of 2.5, which is a pretty tight win. So currently, we're recording on, what is today? Is it Wednesday?
It's Wednesday the 25th.
Yeah, so we're recording on Wednesday, so only 2 days after Monday Night Football. And Chicago is now favored to win by only 2 points. So what that means is that a lot of folks have been betting on the Vikings to win this game. So Vegas had to kind of shift their odds back a half point. The other interesting thing to note here is that this is the closest. This is the tightest game of the week according to Vegas. I think this is the 2-point win margin is the closest between any other game in the NFL this week. So it's going to be close. So my win prediction, I think that going back to episode 1, I think we both had predicted losses for this week. My win prediction for this game is that the Vikings actually win, so I'm going to flip-flop on that to the win column, and I think that the Vikings win 17-10.
Okay, 17-10. Yeah, I've got a close one as well. I'm going to go ahead and say 21-17.
21-17.
Yep, and it's going to come down to kind of the end of the drive. Trubisky not allowed to kick a field goal because they're down 4, and he's not going to get it done. Okay. And our defense will prevail.
All right. Sounds good. So that is our win predictions. You have it. We both have flip-flopped to wins, and we will see how that goes. So join us next time on Diggs Sideline Podcast. We'll be reviewing what is hopefully a Vikings win, and hopefully it'll be smiles all around again. So until then, Skol Vikings.
Thanks for listening.